So right now we see F91 spawning at the bottom right position, sending his Overlord fortunately in the right direction this way, and NonY spawning at the top right position. Personally, there's a pretty wide range of openings for Zerg on this map, and it's largely due to the fact that Protoss early expanding is the standard. I mean, if Protoss early expanding weren't the standard, most Zerg players would probably just opt to 12 hatch, or maybe 12 pool and then 12 hatch or something like that. But because the Protoss early expands, a Zerg player can get away with 9 pool speedling early, because the entrance is so big, Zerglings can run up early. A lot of Zerg players, I've even seen 7 pool or even 5 pool on this map, which again, all of this works because Protoss players early expand so much. And we see NonY's probe going down to the bottom of his ramp and building that first pylon. We don't know if he's 2-gating yet. I still really like 2-gating on this map. We've seen Anytime crush Savior on this map a lot. We've seen players like Arrows TT really like 2-gating on maps like this and have shown quite an amount of effectiveness with it. But yeah, still, Zerg have a huge variety of options early, and Protoss pretty much are only early expanding or 2-gate Zealot rushing. And we see this first probe, or excuse me, the second probe going down NonY's ramp, and it looks like it's going to be a Forge first opening. I see another probe queued in his main, and I don't think anyone's going to be building a pylon to the bottom of the ramp and then going 11-gate, 12-gate, or anything like that. But yeah, there is the Forge that we see being thrown down. And we see F91 opening with a 12 hatch, or excuse me, a 12 pool. So this is all very standard so far. Now, in terms of openings, I'm not really sure what I like most in terms of Protoss openings. I think I would say I like the Mass Corsair Reaver opening because it's just so great to have that island expansion taken. Not only because it's a fast third gas, but also because it's another expansion you know Zerg isn't going to take. Now, unfortunately for NonY has yet to scout out his Zerg opponent, so he's kind of playing in the dark right now. He's playing somewhere in between cautious and sort of power heavy. I mean, a lot of players, if they don't scout the Zerg opponent, build 2 cannons immediately and kind of panic. But we've noticed that F91, or excuse me, NonY is playing a little bit slower than that. He's getting his cannons a little bit delayed. Fortunately, it's the right decision in this case. We do see the gas going down early for F91. Now, this could mean a number of things. I'm curious if he's going to be upgrading his layer or going for Ling speed early. One of those options I think is quite good. I've seen F91 really like these kinds of openings. Actually, for years I've seen F91 use this sort of opening for as long as I can remember. He likes to get Zerg. He likes to go 12 pool and then just get a bunch of Zerglings. It's kind of the same ideology behind getting a 9 pool and then like running a bunch of Zerglings in. But here he gets a 12 pool first, powering a little bit, and then just getting a bunch of Zerglings to have this threat of running in. Right now, because NonY didn't get the chance to scout F91 early, we see NonY still had to make 2 cannons before he made his Nexus. So this is nice and delayed the way F91 wants. It looks like F91's expansion is almost done, and what's surprising to me is that he mines just enough gas to get this layer done, but he doesn't start it until this probe gets out of range. Right now, it totally looks like F91 is just doing this sort of mass Zergling opening, and they're going to be getting more and more hatcheries. Because just like no one uses this timing, no one goes 12 pool, 12 gas, and then expands. I'm almost certain that threw NonY off a little bit. And when we go back to NonY's main, he's playing just standard as can be. We see the Cybernetics core going down, he's transferring a bunch of probes to his expansion. But it looks like F91's forgotten an Overlord. Oh, there's the Overlord going down right now. That's always like a really big deal this early in the game. In fact, F91's building 2 Overlords just to make sure he will never be held back again. So we see that the layer is getting close to finished for F91, which should be increasingly sort of dangerous for NonY, because NonY right now is expecting speed Zerglings to come. I'm actually surprised at how little NonY has at his front. I mean, it walls really solidly at the top, but I mean, if you look at right where NonY's Forge is, that's a big hole that needs to be filled. We do see the Stargate going down now for NonY. Those two Overlords finished now for F91, so he's sitting happily at 34 food. But only a handful of Zerglings for F91. He's actually pumping out more now that his layer is en route to finishing. He's getting that extractor. This is what's so interesting about F91 is he takes these maps that are designed for mass macroing as Zerg, and he just develops these really aggressive plays. I mean, he's only at 2 hatcheries right now against NonY's early expansion. Right now, I think the entire key is for NonY to just be able to hold off this Mutalisk attack, because if NonY can hold that off just fine, NonY can push back and end up securing a victory. Oh, awesome! We see NonY throwing down a robotics facility. Oh goodness, my favorite Protoss play. Which means we are going to be seeing quite a lot of Corsairs coming out for NonY. But man, that Spire is getting so close to finished for F91. These speed Zerglings are just ready and waiting to run into NonY's front. We don't see a cannon going down in NonY's main yet, which could be potentially really dangerous. We see +1 attack, upgrading at the Cybernetics core. And this Corsair, I'm actually shocked that NonY isn't sending this Corsair straight to the main. So many Protoss players like to do that first. I guess NonY just wanted to take a quick detour to get a Zergling count. And it looks like NonY actually... Oh my god, NonY still doesn't have a cannon making in his main, and these Mutalisks are getting increasingly close to finish. We see a whole bunch of Mutalisks and Scourge getting ready to pop out for F91. And NonY's just sitting here in the middle of the map killing off this Overlord. I mean, normally this would be a totally fine play for NonY, but the fact is that F91 did this such a weird build that it's going to completely throw off this timing. Only now do we see a cannon just starting in NonY's main, and there's 2 Corsairs trying to kill off these Overlords, but the Corsairs are going to have to run back. It looks like NonY's going to need to panic and build a huge amount of cannons in his main. He even cancels the robotics base, so he has more resources to get more cannons, but these 5 Mutalisks are going to run right in. Oh no, NonY! Oh, we only have 2 Corsairs out for NonY, but there's only 5 Mutalisks, so hopefully NonY can throw down a whole bunch of cannons in panic mode and end up holding this off, because there's still only 2 hatcheries for F91. And right now they aren't building 2 constantly. Right now there's 6 Mutalisks in there and 2 Scourge. This is just a nightmare for Protoss, especially with these Scourge sitting right outside the Stargate, ready to kill off the Corsairs. Fortunately, NonY is able to sneak out one, but these probes in his main aren't able to run away. And oh no, NonY loses yet another Corsair. This is just looking terrible for NonY as he's losing more and more probes. Clearly NonY was preparing to play a giant macro-style game on this map, but F91 just opening up these aggressive plays, taking out the Dragoon now. Oh, the Dragoon barely stays to live. Thank you to Shield Battery. Live life to lively, thanks to Shield Battery. And it looks like NonY's trying to do a counterattack with some Zealots, but F91 geniusly got Ling Speed and a whole bunch of Zerglings early, so no counterattack is going to do anything here. About 6 or 7 Mutalisks right now in the main of NonY, and NonY's still desperately trying to use these Corsairs to kill it off, but Mutalisks and Scourge flooding in are too much, and now F91 is taking out this key pylon powering the Stargate. There's going to be very, very little that NonY can do at this point. A really, really tough loss for NonY, it looks like it's going to be. Of course, they're trying to do something, but runs right into the Scourge, and GG, we have completed Game 2. Man, F now up 2-0. I mean, I'm not surprised that that F91 took the win on Andromeda. What shocks me, though, is how he took that win. Zergs really like getting that sort of, big economy army going. I was actually expecting the same opening as before, this sort of 3 hatchery and big Hydralisk army massed style. But instead what F91 did is just this sort of weirdly timed Zergling mutilating, which throws a lot of Protoss players off. You see the whole key to this is that F91 opens up with that pool that's late enough that he still has a really good. He has a really good. Excuse me, I totally lost my train of thought. Let me begin with that all again. He gets his spawning pool down early enough so that the Protoss player feels pressured into getting 2 cannons before his Nexus, but he still gets it late enough that he's not completely screwed economically. As a result, what F91's able to do is get this sort of weird timing where Protoss can't quite tell if he's going to be rushed or not, and can't quite tell if the Protoss player is going to be powering or not. Or, excuse me, the Protoss player can't tell if the Zerg is going to be powering or not. So, it's just a really sort of interesting opening that F91 has. I think that's something a lot of players should start doing nowadays, is sort of experimenting with how the Protoss player feels pressured, even though the pressure isn't actually there. As a result, F91 was able to just sort of walk in and take out NonY's main, because NonY had this cannon timing that was sort of based upon what is typical. But of course, F91 is anything but a typical player, as we've seen in our recent Liquibition matches. I mean, the one thing I can conceive that NonY could have done a little better is against an aggressive player like F91, perhaps get that cannon in your main just a little bit earlier. And that, of course, will allow you to put a little more pressure on your opponent without worrying about these sorts of attacks. I mean, the Reaver was coming out just so quickly. I'm just not sure how that feels from the Protoss opponent. Maybe the cannon in the main would have saved it, maybe it wouldn't have. All that said, I think it's important now to discuss the second map coming up, Blue Storm. Again, a notoriously Zerg-favored map. Especially a lot of Terran players really hate playing against Zergs on this map, and it's all due to that little itty-bitty crack outside the natural expansion. Zerg players just love running Zerglings up there as things progress. Later on in the game, when Terran players and Protoss players are continuing to sort of expand out and move their army to that big high ground pod to get map control, Zerg can just, attack move a bazillion Zerglings in. So, a really nice map for Zerg. I really like the dynamic on it. That said, I still don't think it's very bad for Protoss. I actually think that the key for Protoss are those two that are at the north and south of the map. I really personally think it's awesome when Protoss players open with a Corsair Reaver opening and then take that expansion that's next to their main, that's either at the bottom or the top, to take that really quickly. Because again, that's a really fast third gas. Protoss's mineral natural is very easy to take, and this kind of allows Protoss to do a harassment-heavy style of play. Basically, what I'm saying is that if any of you have seen that epic Bisu versus Jaedong game on Blue Storm, I think more Protoss should play like that. So yeah, in terms of Zerg options, really Zerg has a huge amount of options on this map again, because any type of early pool play that a Zerg does forces Protoss to get those cannons so early, and because it's sort of a fat natural expansion, it's kind of difficult to position your cannons and your buildings properly so everything's adequately defended. Either way, I'm just going to say that I'm going to favor NonY on this map. I have a little bit of American pride running in my blood, so hopefully NonY can pull out against a Chinese superpower out from 2-0 and win the next 4 games straight. So with that in mind, let's begin Game 3, NonY versus F91 on Blue Storm.